Good morning, guys. Happy Saturday morning. Okay, so here we go plodding along. Now it's time to do the work that we need to do, right? To get us ready for whatever's coming in the future. And I want to bring something up here because maybe people think about this, maybe they don't. Maybe you're like me, maybe you're not, okay? I'm a very black and white person. You guys know that, all right? Not a whole lot of gray in the middle. Gray matter, okay? I think I have a little bit of that. But the fallacy that's out there is a black and white one, that people are either prepared or they're not prepared. And there's some truth to that, but it's not a whole truth, okay? Sure, there are some people that tomorrow is a completely different day and they try to do whatever they can for it tomorrow, and that's it. But if you think about it, a lot of people, most people, if you will, go grocery shopping once a week or once every 2 weeks or something. So they have a week's worth of food or 2 weeks worth of food in the house, right? Okay. Maybe they saw something on sale and bought a few more of them, okay? So they've got something. So all these people saying that, in 6 hours, the world's going to go completely crazy. I don't think it's going to be that quick. A few days, it's going to start getting worrisome. By a week, it's going to start getting a little crazy. But you really start to think about food and how well prepared is anybody in the way of food? And how quickly can that be taken away from you? Even though we all prep, okay, put stuff up, put stuff away, a lot of us talk about all the time, if you saw a great sale at the grocery store, buy more. I've said it. Every other channel said it. Buy more, freeze it, can it, dehydrate it, whatever it would be, right? And you do that. But then you start to take a look at the fact of what's going on in the world. And what if when you went to the grocery store, not only isn't there anything on sale, there just isn't as much or isn't anything. Just this week, we've heard what's going on. Tyson has announced that they're going to close 4 chicken plants between Arkansas, Indiana, and Missouri. Okay, they're going to lay off 3,000 people. Okay. We also heard this week that Smithfield Foods, albeit Hong Kong/Chinese owned, okay, is closing 35 hog farms. Okay, Smithfield's the world's largest pork producer, guys. Okay, and it's here in the U.S. Okay, so we're gonna lose. I guess estimates are somewhere around 100 employees out of that. Everybody goes, 100 employees, that's not that much. Unless, of course, you're one of those 100 employees and going, honey, how are we going to buy food? Okay. We all know the stories we've heard over the last couple of years about beef, that ranchers can't afford to feed the cattle. They're sending them off to slaughter early, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got ebbs and flows of meat prices, right? Sorry, still morning. And, because we've got smaller cows going to market or whatever it would be. So I took a look at something this morning. I looked at the latest USDA report on beef, and the print would be way too small if I put a picture of it here in the video, so I'll just link it below if you want to read it, or at least take a look at it. It's a chart. But I found something really interesting in it that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'll give you this, just a couple of different prices. Bone-in ribeye last year was $8.51 a pound. This year it's $12.48 a pound. That's a 46.6% increase in price. Boneless sirloin last year was $4.61 a pound. This year it's $7.16, a 55.3% increase in price. And everybody go, okay, beef prices are going up astronomically. That's Bidenomics. We get it. Until you go to the flip side. Last year, briskets were $4.67 a pound. This year, they're $2.96. That's a 36.6% drop. Or flank steak. Last year was $9.92. This year, it's $7.85. That's a 20.8% drop. So, and maybe somebody can explain this, because I sure as hell can't figure it out. Why some of the prices of cuts of meat are astronomically higher and some of them are ridiculously lower. It's not like you're getting more ribeyes out of a cow or more briskets out of a cow. I mean, depending on the thickness you cut the ribeye, okay, you're only getting so many steaks and you're only getting so many briskets out of each particular cow. So why the vast disparity in price? I thought maybe, okay, could it be that the more expensive cuts of meat are going up and the cheaper cuts of meat are going down? Feed the people the scraps maybe. But even that didn't seem to come into play. So you try to figure this out. What are they trying to do? Obviously it's not even, the fillets are going to the elites and the 73.27 is going to the paupers because we know the price of ground beef too, right? It doesn't make any sense. Maybe a rancher can explain why. So I start looking at this and go, how are people going to come up with a protein source in an SHTF? Okay, if there are less pork producers, there are less chicken producers, if the price of beef, we all know, is all over the place and there is less cattle out there just because of the cost of cattle feed, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to acquire a protein source. So I figured, okay, first thing people are going to do, some are going to raise rabbits or raise quail or guineas or whatever it would be, and that's worthwhile. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I wish I could raise chickens. But again, I don't want to eat chicken every day, and I don't have the ability to raise pigs or cows on my property, or I don't have the space. I have the space to do chicken. It's just, if the world ever went to shit, okay, at that point, regulations and stuff like that mean nothing. I just don't have the land to raise cattle. But I could do chickens. Could do rabbits too. So I got into this and I thought, all right, what are people going to do? And we hear this all the time, preppers and non-preppers alike. I'm going out in the woods and I'm shooting Bambi, right? Okay. I'm going to go hunting. I've talked about it. Trapping small game. I've showed you different traps before, how to do it. Whether they are mechanical purchase traps or whether they are homemade traps. I've shown you how to do things like that. But so is everybody else have that idea, okay? And how fast is the forest going to get cleaned out? We may not have to wait too long. So I did a little bit of looking, okay? And I couldn't find anything past 2021 on fishing licenses. All right? Fishing licenses have a tendency to hover right around 39, 40 million fishing licenses are sold in the United States every year, but the most recent figures I can get are 2021. And that doesn't really tell us a whole lot on how Bidenomics has affected that. Hunting licenses is a different story, okay? In 2020, okay, we're in the throes of COVID in 2020. People couldn't go to work, do whatever. We didn't know where the world was going. And there were 15.5 million hunting licenses issued in the United States. COVID kind of ends in 2021. People have to go back to work. And, the grocery stores are back open again, whatever it would be. We're still a little bit in the COVID, but no big deal. We dropped down to 15.2 million hunting licenses. So 300,000 less people got hunting licenses in 2021 than they did in 2020. Okay? And you go, okay, it's because people had to go back to work. 2022, we didn't recover those numbers. We still stayed at 15.3 million. Okay? So we're still hovering in the low 15s at this point. figure this is pretty much average. 2023. I want to tell you this right now. 2023. It's August. We haven't even gotten into hunting season yet. There are already 15.9 million hunting licenses that have been purchased in the United States. That's 600,000 more licenses than last year. Are these preppers? Probably some. Okay. Are they all? Certainly not. These are other people who are going, food's getting ridiculously expensive. I can't afford beef. There isn't pork. There isn't chicken, okay, or whatever from the closings of these plants. How are we going to have meat on the table? Can I get a goose instead of a turkey for Thanksgiving? Okay. Can I put some venison in the freezer instead of ground beef? I can have ground venison, whatever it's going to be. But when you add 600,000 hunting licenses in 1 year, did we add that many preppers? Maybe. I hope. Did we add that many people who had an epiphany and said, you know what? Bidenomics is really screwing me. I can either afford to pay the electric bill and put gas in my car, or I can put food on the table. Maybe I need to go buy a hunting license. Now, you get into the other side is hunting licenses aren't exactly cheap. Okay, you can go out and buy a deer tag or an elk tag or whatever it is, but that's going to cost you the equivalent of a week's worth of groceries, at least. Okay, you know, I say that because Mrs. P and I were in the store yesterday and I about fell over. We hardly bought anything and still walked out with a $140 bill. The funniest thing we saw in the store yesterday was a stack of paper plates. Okay, you know, it's like 200 paper plates. Was $20 for freaking paper plates. Now, we didn't need paper plates. We just happened to see them when we were getting toilet paper and paper towels, you know, paper products that we needed to replenish our stockpile. Because believe it or not, we actually do use toilet paper around here. We're not that much redneck. But are people waking up? Is the public going, I got to figure out how to eat? Now, let's think about the other side of this. When you have 600,000 more hunters, and y'all know that you go hunting, you don't always get anything. You go fishing, you don't always catch anything. Okay. But chances are of those 600,000 people, they're going to catch or kill a few more, insert animal here. Which now you get to the issue of how does that work for the deer population, the elk population, the moose population, the bear population, whatever the hell you're hunting, okay, going forward. Because if people are hungry enough, they're not worried about, gee, you know what, it's a doe, but I'll take the doe anyway because it's still meat. They're not worried about, oh, the slot limit on bass is 12 inches. I don't care. I still need to eat. This one's 11 and I'm taking it. Okay. How soon, how quick is it going to be that in an SHTF situation, or much longer into Joe's presidency, that food, not only in the grocery store gets scarce, but food in the wild gets scarce? Okay? That there isn't much. I mean, you go back to the Depression, there wasn't anything for them to catch or kill. I mean, now granted, in some spots too. You know, you get out the Appalachians or stuff like that where it wasn't heavily populated. Hell, they didn't even know the Depression was going on. It was just another day for them. But you get closer to the cities where people could, not in the cities, but closer to them where people would still go out for a weekend hunting trip. There wasn't anything to get. It was all got. Okay. This is something to plan for. How much proteins can you put up? Well, all depends on the amount of space you have. All depends on what your capacity is. I mean, do you know how to can meat? Do Do you have enough freezer space to freeze it? Have you dehydrated it and turned it into jerky or whatever it is? Do you have a freeze dryer? Lucky you. Okay, that you can do this sort of stuff. That's what I'm saying. What are your alternate sources for meat? Do you grow beans? Or I'm not saying alternate sources for meat, but alternate sources for protein. If alternate sources for meat, of course, if you can raise chickens or quail or rabbits or whatever, hey, more power to you. Not only are you going to have a protein source, you can have one hell of a barter item. Okay, but can you raise beans or lentils or something like that? Peanuts. Do you have stuff like peanut butter in your preps? Those are things to take a look at, because the numbers out there, the actual facts, and what is going on, if you take it in bits and pieces, it doesn't seem that troublesome. 100 people lost their job because they're closing down a bunch of hog farms. Okay. Well, we got plenty of hog plants, right? So they say. 3,000 people lost their job because we closed down some chicken plants. Well, it sucks to be those 3,000 people, but there's still plenty of chicken on the grocery store shelves. Until there isn't. And then what's your option? And all the people that go out and say, hunting is going to be my option, you better get with the program, because you ain't the first one to think about that. We do not have a monopoly on good ideas in the prepping community. Okay, non-preppers can have good ideas too, or the same ideas. And hunting and fishing is a pretty obvious one to feed yourself when the grocery store can't do it anymore. Just something to think about. Pinball out.